This is just the question and answer session. If there's any questions y'all have, any suggestions y'all have with respect to the actual Cube itself, the actual manual method, something that y'all think could be improved upon, something that you think would make it easier, make it, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to ask Josh, I'll just pass the microphone off to Josh if you want to ask him a question. So if you want to ask a question, just let us know who you want to ask it to.
I know the only real concern we had when doing the manual method was while we were doing the washes and trying to manipulate the column and the tube, there was like moisture, you know, there was wetness collecting on the outside of the column. So it was like, oh, we know that there's not supposed to be any DNA there because it's bound to the membrane at that point, but it was kind of just that thought, like, oh.
Yeah, doing it manually, I have noticed that you do, and you'll get some wetness on your glove, and if anybody does DNA, as soon as your gloves get wet, you freak out, you know, and you change them. So basically, yeah. But, well, that's something that, you know, as you do it, if you do like a contamination check as you're doing it, if you run some blanks in between, you may be using the same gloves to see if you are spreading anything from one to the next. I've never seen any contamination with it because the DNA is firmly bound to the membrane, but it's a comfort level thing. And I think the more you do it, and the more you realize that, okay, my gloves are getting wet from just whatever is collecting on the side, especially after the PE wash. That's like the big one because it's 750 microliters going through there. I know that when you definitely pull that out to decant that, to get rid of that you do, the sides of it are pretty wet. But then when you do that last spin, before you do the elution buffer, that gets rid of all of that liquid that's on the side. It pulls it down into it. So you always notice when you're going to move it to your elution buffer step, it's dry. It's dry on the sides. So, yeah.
Does QIAGEN sell, would you sell the 2 mil collection tube separately that we could purchase if you did not want it? Like, for instance, for me, I didn't like the fact that I had to pipette it out. I didn't decant it. I mean, you could decant, pipette out. For me, toss it. Get me another tube. It's going to be a very quick, it's almost like microconning. I mean, I do the same type of thing there when we're doing our washes. I mean, you just take it and move it. And for me, that would just be taking the spin column and moving it to a new tube would just be much faster.
Yeah, I don't think that those collection tubes are available outside of the kit. I mean, we could look into it for you and check and see if we might be able to get you some. But routinely, I believe most people are just, doing it in that same tube.
But there isn't anything special about the 1 ml, 1.5 ml final tubes, and the column fits in those, right? So you could conceivably do your validation with replacing with 1.5.
So those collection tubes, I mean, when you elute, you put them in a 2 mil, you know, you could do your washes in a 2 mil tube potentially. I mean, if you didn't want to reuse those collection tubes. What about any suggestions or anything that I could take back to QIAGEN that maybe we could do any better with some of our kits, or anything that you saw over the past couple days or you've seen maybe in your labs? Is there any feedback that you all may have?
Can you make all of the bags and all the kits Ziploc bags instead of the ones where you have to either have somebody tear it open or cut the top off?
Good feedback. I know actually we are working on changing a lot of our kits because
the easy one is like that.
Yeah.
There's like the tubes for the tips, or one of the two is Ziploc and everything else is not. So people just like yanking those things open, and sometimes they're just flying across the room.
Yeah, we don't want anything flying around the lab.
So that would be great if everything would be as
I know I'm not exactly sure for the easy one specifically, but I know we are changing quite a few of our kits, you know, where our microfuge tubes are in there. You know, obviously it's a lot easier with a Ziploc style bag, so you don't rip it open and lose all your tubes. Yeah.
What's the cost of the Cube?
It is between 16 and 17,000.
Wow.
Yeah. How much did you think it was?
A lot more than that. Like,
Yeah,
more than double that.
A lot more.
Okay.
I would guess 25 or
Yeah.
more.
I mean, if you look at the price of a centrifuge or something like that, and I mean, it's close, just a little bit above the price of a centrifuge, and it's got one in there in addition to everything else. So, yeah.
And then what's the cost of the kits? You're doing 50 or 250 for the MinElute, do you know?
I don't know offhand. We can
I'm sure
look it
it's
up.
online.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The prices are online.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but they weren't. I mean, they were a couple hundred. They weren't like in the thousands or anything like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
couple hundred.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it's more cost. I mean, if you go to the 250 kit as opposed to the 50, it's cheaper just because it's in bulk.
I know one question I had a lot yesterday, so I'll ask it. Was the expiration of the columns and everything? Because I think it's maybe in the paperwork somewhere, but I didn't see it on the kits. So
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions about that in the manual part.
Should be 1 year from when you open the kit. Yeah.
And we noticed that the columns were kept in the refrigerator. Is there a reason for that? I guess that was one of the questions that came up yesterday as well.
I will have to double check those storage conditions. Yeah. I assume it's something to do with the spin column. Yeah.
This is kind of just a question on the extraction purification end for your investigator kit and stuff. And even more specifically for your bead technology that you're using.
Yep.
Do you have customers that are reporting inhibition issues to you with samples where they're seeing like they have to, re-clean it up or anything like that, similar to like the Promega IQ kits where we see some inhibition robotically, specifically in the process?
For your downstream applications, I haven't heard anything specifically. Are you seeing that or?
No, we don't use QIAGEN, so this is kind of my question to you as to, if you have laboratories that talk about having to like re-clean or.
No.
Once the sample's extracted. I mean, that's even for the group too, because anyone using the easy ones, you'd be using that technology, so you don't have any inhibition type issues.
And we actually have found that if we take a sample that we've organically extracted and it shows inhibition, we can go put it on the robot and then requant it, and inhibition's gone. It bleeds it up. Yes, it's great. You sacrifice a little bit of yields, obviously, but you couldn't do anything with it before, so. And I mean, it does a great job. We've done that a lot. And we'll go back and re-microcon it down even and requant it.
And we don't have the easy one, and we just use the QIAMP spin columns from the investigator kit, and we do the same thing manually to clean up samples that are inhibited after phenylchloroform extraction. And then, like she said, concentrate them and requant them.
Who was talking about the sticky samples yesterday? And so does it clean up those successfully?
It didn't. I still had to dilute the amplicon before injecting them to get them to inject. Otherwise, there was just no profile there.
And have you done any of those with just a straight phenylchloroform?
It was a phenylchloroform extraction, and I believe I tried to QIAGEN clean it up, and it was very low quanting, so it wasn't anything unusual to not get a profile, but I had a feeling something was there, and once I diluted it, I was able to detect a lot more alleles, because I only had things that were under threshold.
I did some adhesive parts of the Band-Aids, and I didn't get full profile, but I didn't show any inhibition by quant, so using the Easy One.
Yeah, I know with the Easy One protocol, sometimes we just might recommend doing an increased proteinase K digestion for some of those types of samples. So might be worth giving a try for some of those stickier type samples or more difficult samples.
And it's kind of to you and then to the whole group too. I mean, for those of you that are using QIAGEN, the easy ones, are you doing a lot of low-level touch samples, I'm assuming, on there too, and having great success with it as well?
Yes, we are. Yeah. We switched from organic extraction to easy one completely.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more people processing on the touch samples on the easy ones. So.
Talked about being able to customize the protocols for the QIAcube.
Yeah.
Can you do that for the Easy One so that you can get a smaller than 50 microliter final volume?
Now we do have a little bit smaller elution volume. Which model of the Easy One do you have?
We have just the regular Easy One, and now we have the XLs.
Okay, the XLs. I believe there's a 40 microliter. We may have a 30 microliter as well. I'll have to double check, but there is a little bit lower. It's not as programmable as the QIAcube is. I mean, pretty much the protocols that are on there are pretty set. but there is a little bit of a lower volume that's available.
5 or 20 would be great.
Okay. Hey, no, I'll feed that back internally, definitely. Yeah, because that's how we develop our new kits and
Well, the
instruments. So.
amp's now 10 microliters per identifier, so 20 or 25 would be, I think.
You'd be in trouble if they did try.
The I guess challenge is saturating the beads enough, so it's like there's the fine line between, are you going to elute and maximize your yield with the elution volume? So that's the balance and challenge to I guess tweaking some of those lower elution volumes. So.
Do you have a list, and I think maybe this might have been addressed yesterday, of laboratories that actually have this in place? Because one of the things I would have liked to see during, the workshop here for the MinElute was its direct application in some cases, to kind of see how it, and this may not exist at this time. You may not have a lab that would even, be at that point where they kind of could have shared some validation ups and downs that they kind of went through directly, its application, in their procedure manual and also how it applied to their interpretation kind of report writing guidelines.
Yeah, and since it's a fairly new application, there's a few labs that I know already have it validated and are using it routinely, and I can put you in touch with them. Are you going to be at the Promega meeting?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I believe one of those presentations will be given there on the validation, and we can talk afterwards, and I can get you the information. Yeah, I'll get your information and I can send you specifics on that.
Great.
And if anybody else is interested, I can give you all my card and I can just give you, pass along any validation information, maybe user information, so you can kind of pick those that have done it already, pick their brains and see what kind of recommendations they might have and see what type of applications they're using it for.
Yeah, we're just such a small lab. I try not to reinvent any wheel if I don't have to. So if I can take it directly from somebody that
somebody's
has
already done the work, why not?
Right to their protocols if they're willing to share.
Yeah.
One thing that Matt touched on briefly yesterday was the webinar that's on the QIAGEN website. And so the folks from New York State Police and I believe also Maryland State Police labs have their experiences. And so you might want to, that link is in the presentation that Matt gave yesterday, and you'll see it on your thumb drives. So that would be a good place to start, in at least, and I'm sure that, well, I'm not sure, but I would think that either one of those gentlemen would be more than happy to talk to people about their experiences. But New York State Police definitely has it up in their state.
Yeah, so I had sent Rob a couple weeks ago a validation that New York State Police did. So I can give you all my card, and if you're interested in getting that validation and basically the SOP that they followed for doing that, just email me and I'll shoot it back to you.